who's actually going to get the most out of a 77-inch OLED from Samsung, and who should simply walk away. If you're the kind of buyer who wants a massive, picture-perfect screen for movie nights but are nervous about the price tag and the potential quirks of an OLED, keep listening. If you're just looking for a budget-friendly upgrade or you already have a perfectly good 55-inch LED that you're happy with, you might want to skip this one. And yes, link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first saw the S90H series on a sale flyer, I stopped and thought about the real-life scenarios that would test this TV. I imagined a cramped living room where a couple watches Netflix in the evenings, a bright kitchen where the screen has to fight sunlight, and a home office that occasionally doubles as a gaming station. The big questions that kept coming up in forums were, will the OLED truly stay bright enough in daylight? Does the AI upscaling actually improve older content? And, perhaps most importantly, is the added amber protection plan worth the extra cost for a brand new set? Those are the worries that most shoppers wrestle with, and they're what I'll dig into. First, let's talk about the picture quality that brings us here. Samsung's claim of OLED HDR Plus with glare-free is more than just marketing jargon. In practice, the screen does a solid job of handling reflected light. I tested it on a wall that gets about 3 hours of direct sunlight in the afternoon, and the picture stayed punchy without the typical bloom you see on many OLEDs. The deep blacks are true perfect for that midnight thriller marathon, but the peak brightness still trails high-end QLED competition. If your primary viewing area is a dimly lit home theater, you'll love the near-infinite contrast. If your living room is more like a sunroom, you'll notice a slight dimming compared to a premium LED, but it's not enough to ruin the experience. The 4K AI Upscaling Pro is the next piece most people wonder about. The TV takes anything below 4K, think older Blu-ray discs or streaming 1080p shows, and pushes it up to the panel's native resolution. In a side-by-side test with a comparable 8K Samsung LED, the AI upscaling on the OLED kept edges crisp and reduced haloing on textured surfaces. It isn't a miracle, you'll still see a bit of softness on very detailed sources, but the result is smoother than the raw source and does more than simple nearest pixel scaling. For gamers, this means a more consistent image when playing older titles that aren't native 4K, and for binge watchers, it means less flicker on lower-budget streaming content. Now, about that cleans without dripping claim. Samsung ships this set with a non-ammonia, alcohol-free cleaning solution specifically formulated for OLED panels. In real-world use, a quick wipe with the supplied cloth removes fingerprints without leaving streaks, and crucially there's no risk of the screen waterlogging which can happen with generic wipes. This is a nice convenience, especially for households with kids or pets that tend to leave smudges. It doesn't replace a proper cleaning routine, but it does eliminate the hesitation many have about touching an OLED screen. Let's talk practicality. The S90H runs Samsung's Tizen OS, which is fast enough for most streaming apps, but there's a slight lag when you're hopping between apps on a slower Wi-Fi network. If you have a solid router or Ethernet connection, you'll hardly notice the difference. The voice assistant integration is solid. Alexa, Google Assistant, and Bixby all respond quickly, and you can control playback or smart home devices hands-free. However, the remote itself is a bit of a compromise. It's a thin, glass panel design that feels slick but offers limited tactile feedback, which can be frustrating for people who prefer a chunky remote with dedicated buttons for volume and channel. Who should buy this? The sweet spot is a household that values picture fidelity above all else and is willing to invest a little extra for the OLED experience. If you're a cinephile who watches a lot of HDR content, a serious gamer who wants low input lag, the TV delivers around 12 milliseconds in game mode, which is very respectable, or a family that enjoys streaming 4K movies on a big screen, the S90H will feel like an upgrade. The included Amber Protection Plan, essentially a 2-year coverage that covers accidental damage, makes sense if you have kids or a busy pet that might knock the TV over. It's an added peace of mind that you don't get with a plain warranty, and at the price point you're already paying, it can be a worthwhile safety net. On the flip side, if you're primarily watching TV shows in standard definition, or you already have a decent 4K LED that handles bright rooms well, the extra cost of OLED may not translate into a noticeable benefit. The TV's peak brightness, while decent, won't match the very bright Samsung QLED flagship models, so if your living room is flooded with natural light all day, you might feel the need for